Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Horizon's Dream, watching the blue marble of Kepler Prime grow larger on the main screen. The diplomatic vessel carried 12 alien dignitaries from 6 different species, all heading to the quarterly Federation Trade Summit. Jake had made this run dozens of times over the past 5 years. It was boring work, but it paid well and kept humanity in good standing with the Galactic Federation. "Captain, we're receiving clearance to dock at Station 7, said Lisa Bennett, from the navigation console. Her fingers moved quickly across the controls as she guided their ship toward the massive orbital platform. Lisa had served with Jake for 3 years now, and he trusted her skills completely. "Thank you, Lisa. Ryan, how are our engines looking?" Jake turned to the engineering station where Ryan Burke monitored their ship's systems. "All green, Captain. No problems to report," Ryan replied with his usual calm tone. The young engineer had joined their crew just last year, fresh from the Mars Technical Academy. Despite his youth, he knew their ship better than anyone. Amy Rodriguez looked up from her communications post. "Captain, I'm getting a message from the station. They want to know our cargo manifest again." Jake nodded. "Send them the standard diplomatic package list. Nothing unusual there." The Horizon's Dream was typical of human civilian vessels, lightly, armed, built for comfort rather than speed, and designed to look as non-threatening as possible. Most alien species saw human ships this way: peaceful, weak, useful for carrying cargo and passengers, but not much else. This suited humanity just fine. The Federation had welcomed humans almost 200 years ago, but not as equals. Humanity was seen as the galaxy's servants, good for medicine, research, and keeping the peace between more aggressive species. Human colonies existed on the edges of known space, small farming worlds and research stations that posed no threat to anyone. Ambassador Paul Henderson maintained this image carefully. He sat in the Federation Council chambers on Centris Prime, always speaking softly, always seeking compromise. When the Valian Empire demanded tribute from human colonies, Henderson found ways to pay without seeming weak. When the Zephyrian Collective claimed human mining rights in the Outer Rim, Henderson negotiated settlements that gave them what they wanted. The other species respected Henderson for his diplomatic skills, but they also saw him as proof that humans knew their place in the galactic order. Humans were useful, but they were not dangerous. They had no idea how wrong they were. Deep in space, beyond the galactic rim where no trade routes existed, Admiral Kate Sullivan reviewed the latest intelligence reports. Her office sat in the heart of Firebase Alpha, a massive military installation that officially did not exist. The base housed 50,000 personnel and served as the command center for humanity's real military force. Sullivan had gray hair and tired eyes, but her mind remained sharp after 30 years of service. She had joined the Human Defense Corps as a young lieutenant, back when the masquerade was still new and untested. Now she commanded the most powerful military force the galaxy had never seen. "Admiral, the monthly reports are ready for your review," said her aide, Colonel Marcus Stone. The tall man placed a datapad on her desk and stepped back. Sullivan picked up the pad and scrolled through the information. Production numbers from hidden shipyards, training results from secret military academies, weapons testing data from facilities disguised as research stations. All of it painted the same picture. Humanity was ready for war. The question was whether war would come to them first. Sullivan had lived through the early days after first contact, when humanity learned the hard truth about galactic civilization. The Federation's welcome had come with conditions. Submit to their authority. Accept their rules. Never challenge their stronger species. The alternative was complete destruction. Humanity had chosen to submit, but they had also chosen to prepare. For nearly 2 centuries, every human colony, every research station, every trade vessel had served a dual purpose. On the surface, they appeared exactly as the galaxy expected: peaceful, productive, harmless. Underneath, they formed the foundation of the largest military buildup in galactic history. The Horizon's Dream docked smoothly at Kepler Station. Jake led his passengers through the airlock, exchanging pleasantries with the station administrator, a tall blue-skinned Altarian named Veltar. The alien species had always been friendly to humans, which made Jake's job easier. "Captain Morrison, always a pleasure to see you," Veltar said in accented English. "Your passengers will be staying in the diplomatic quarter as usual." "Thank you, Administrator. We'll be departing tomorrow morning after they finish their meetings." As Jake watched his passengers disappear into the station's corridors, he felt the familiar weight of the secret he carried. Like every human in space, Jake served two masters. Officially, he worked for Henderson's diplomatic service. Unofficially, he reported to Sullivan's intelligence network. The Horizon's Dream carried more than passengers and cargo. Hidden in her hull were sensors that recorded every ship movement, every military installation, every weakness in alien defenses. Jake's crew knew nothing about this secondary mission, but they didn't need to know. That evening, Jake sat in his quarters and composed his regular report. 3 new Valian warships had entered the system yesterday. The Zephyrian trade convoy was 2 days behind schedule. Station security had been increased, but their patrol routes remained predictable. Small details that meant nothing individually, but formed part of a larger picture that Sullivan's analysts studied carefully. Jake encrypted the message and sent it through channels that appeared to be routine maintenance updates to his ship's computer systems. Within hours, the information would reach Firebase Alpha and join thousands of similar reports from across human space. The masquerade continued because it had to continue. Humanity was not ready to reveal their true strength, and the galaxy was not ready to learn that their most peaceful species was also their most dangerous. But that balance could not last forever. In the Outer Rim territories beyond the site of Federation patrols, Zephyrian warships were gathering. Their commanders spoke of teaching humanity a lesson about proper respect. They planned to attack human colonies as a demonstration, to show the galaxy what happened to species that forgot their place. They had no idea they were about to wake something that had been sleeping for 200 years, something that had been waiting patiently for this exact moment. The mask was about to slip, and when it did, the galaxy would learn why humanity had chosen to hide in the first place. The emergency alert reached Captain Jake Morrison at 0347 hours ship time. He jerked awake in his bunk as the communication system screamed with priority signals from across human space. 3 colonies had gone silent in the Outer Rim. New Montana, Heaven's Rest, Clearwater, all dead zones now. Jake stumbled to his communication console and activated the secure channel. The images that came through made his stomach turn. Orbital bombardment craters where cities once stood. Melted glass where farms had grown crops. Nothing moved on any of the 3 worlds. 43 million people. Gone. The Zephyrian Collective claimed responsibility within hours. Their message was broadcast on all Federation frequencies, delivered by Supreme Commander Kraktos himself. The reptilian alien spoke with cold satisfaction about what he called a demonstration of proper hierarchy. "These humans forgot their place in the galactic order," Kraktos hissed through his translator. "They settled worlds without permission, from their betters. This is what happens to species who need reminding about respect." Jake sat in his captain's chair, staring at the dead screens showing empty space where 3 human worlds had been. His hands shook with rage he had to keep hidden. Around him, his crew worked in stunned silence. Lisa Bennett had family on New Montana. Ryan Burke grew up on Haven's Rest before joining the merchant fleet. The Federation's response came 12 hours later. Council Chairman Veltar called for calm and suggested diplomatic solutions. He spoke about territorial disputes and the need for careful negotiation. His words were empty comfort to anyone who had lost family in the attacks. "We must not let emotion guide our response," Veltar announced to the gathered council. The Zephyrian Collective has raised legitimate concerns about human expansion into contested space. Perhaps if humans had been more careful about their settlement patterns, this tragedy could have been avoided. Ambassador Paul Henderson sat in the council chambers and nodded agreement with Veltar's words. Inside, he burned with fury, but his face showed only diplomatic concern. He requested a formal investigation and called for peaceful resolution of the territorial dispute. The message was clear to anyone watching. Human lives did not matter. Human deaths were acceptable losses in galactic politics. Dr. Elena Martinez watched the Federation's response from her laboratory on Mars. She had lost her sister's family on New Montana. Her brother-in-law had been a teacher there. Her nephews were 8 and 10 years old. Now they were radioactive ash in a crater that glowed green in satellite photos. Elena was a xenobiologist, one of the galaxy's leading experts on alien physiology. She had spent 15 years studying other species, trying to build bridges between humans and their galactic neighbors. She had believed in peaceful cooperation and mutual understanding. That belief died with New Montana. Elena walked out of her laboratory and straight to the nearest news station. She demanded to speak on the emergency broadcast that was covering the attacks. The reporter, surprised by her intensity, agreed to put her on live transmission. "I want to ask Ambassador Henderson a question," Elena said, staring directly into the camera. "How many more of us have to die before we stop pretending to be what we are not? How many more children have to burn before we admit that being peaceful has not kept us safe?" Her words spread across human space faster than official news reports. Colony after colony picked up her transmission and rebroadcast it. Mining stations and research facilities echoed her question. Trade ships carried her message to the farthest human settlements. Elena's question became a rallying cry that Ambassador Henderson could not ignore or dismiss. Captain Morrison received new orders, 2 days later, while ferrying supplies to refugee camps near the attack zones. A convoy of Zephyrian raiders had been spotted in the Titan system, hunting human ships for sport. Morrison's vessel was the closest civilian ship to their location. "This is insane," Lisa Bennett said when she read the orders. "They want us to investigate armed raiders with a diplomatic transport?" Jake looked at his crew. Amy Rodriguez was checking communication frequencies, trying to find the raiders' position. Ryan Burke was reviewing their ship's limited defensive systems. They were good people, but they were not soldiers. "We have our orders," Jake said quietly. "Set course for the Titan system." They found the raiders attacking a human medical ship, carrying supplies to Haven's rest survivors. 3 Zephyrian attack ships surrounded the defenseless vessel, taking their time with the kill. They were not trying to capture cargo or take prisoners. They were hunting humans for entertainment. Jake watched through his ship's sensors as the raiders forced the medical ship's crew into escape pods, then shot the pods one by one. 37 medical personnel died in the vacuum of space while the Zephyrians laughed over open communication channels. The raiders noticed Morrison's ship and turned toward it, eager for more prey. Jake ordered emergency power to their engines and ran for the edge of the system. The Horizon's Dream was faster than the raiders expected, and they escaped into hyperspace just ahead of enemy weapons fire. But Jake had seen enough. The raiders wore trophies made from human bones. They collected human scalps as decorations for their ship's bridge. They were not soldiers fighting a war. They were monsters who enjoyed killing. Admiral Kate Sullivan received Morrison's report at Firebase Alpha, along with hundreds of similar accounts from across human space. Zephyrian forces were not just claiming territory. They were hunting humans for sport, treating the genocide as entertainment. Sullivan called an emergency meeting of the Shadow Council. General Marcus Stone arrived first, his face grim with suppressed anger. General Patricia Cross came next, followed by Admiral Tony Richardson and a dozen other senior officers who commanded humanity's hidden military forces. "The masquerade is breaking down," Stone said without preamble. "Our people are demanding action." Elena Martinez spoke for millions of humans when she asked Henderson why we keep pretending to be weak. Cross nodded agreement. "The colonies are organizing militia groups. They are not waiting for Federation diplomacy to save them. If we do not act soon, they will act without us." Richardson spread intelligence reports across the meeting table. Zephyrian fleet movements suggest they plan more attacks. They see human weakness as an invitation to continued aggression. They will not stop until we make them stop. Sullivan looked around the table at officers who had served in shadow for decades. They had built the most powerful military force in galactic history while pretending to be harmless merchants and researchers. They had waited patiently for orders that might never come. Now those orders were necessary. "The masquerade ends now," Sullivan said quietly. "Send the activation codes to all hidden installations. Begin Phase 1 deployment of the defense fleet. It is time the galaxy learned what humans are really capable of." Across human space, mining facilities began opening hidden hangars. Research stations activated weapon systems that had been disguised as scientific equipment for decades. Trade convoys dropped their camouflage and revealed the warships they had always been. The mask was coming off at last. The first glimpse of humanity's true nature came at Kepler Station 3 days after Admiral Sullivan sent the activation codes. Captain Alex Turner stood on the bridge of the UNS Retribution, watching Zephyrian warships approach the civilian station where Jake Morrison had docked just weeks before. 24 Zephyrian attack ships moved in formation toward the orbital platform. Their commander, Fleet Captain Zektar, broadcast his intentions on all frequencies. He would destroy the station and everyone on it as another lesson about human weakness. The attack would be slow and painful to maximize fear. Turner had been waiting for this moment his entire career. For 15 years he had commanded merchant vessels while secretly training for war. His ship looked like a standard human cargo hauler from the outside, but appearances could be deadly. "All stations report ready, Captain," said his weapons officer, Lieutenant Carl Bennett. The young man's voice was steady despite this being his first real combat. "Very good. Drop the camouflage," Turner ordered. The Retribution's hull shimmered and changed. Fake cargo pods fell away to reveal weapon turrets. False engine housings opened to show military-grade thrusters. In seconds, the disguised freighter became a warship that made the approaching Zephyrians look primitive. Fleet Captain Zektar stared at his tactical display in confusion. His sensors showed impossible readings from the human ship, energy shields stronger than anything in the Federation databases, weapons that registered power levels beyond known technology. The vessel was clearly military, but no such ship should exist. "Human vessel, identify yourself," Zektar demanded over the communication channel. "Your ship does not match any known class in Federation records." Turner smiled coldly. "This is Captain Alex Turner of the United Nations ship Retribution. You are attacking a civilian station. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Zektar laughed, showing his sharp teeth. "Foolish human. You cannot threaten us with one ship no matter how well you have hidden its nature. We will destroy you, then proceed with our demonstration." The Zephyrian fleet opened fire with plasma cannons and particle beams. Energy bolts that could melt through station armor struck the Retribution's shields and simply vanished. The human ship did not even shake from the impact. Turner waited for the enemy barrage to end, then gave his response. "You wanted to see what humans are capable of. This is us being merciful." The Retribution's railguns fired once. Solid metal projectiles accelerated to 10% of light speed punched through Zephyrian armor, like it was paper. 6 enemy ships exploded instantly. The remaining vessels scattered in panic, but human fighters launched from hidden bays and hunted them down with ruthless efficiency. The entire battle lasted 4 minutes. 24 Zephyrian warships became expanding clouds of debris. Not a single human was injured. Fleet Captain Zektar survived only because Turner allowed it. His crippled ship drifted helplessly while he stared at the destruction of his fleet. The human had not been boasting about mercy. If Turner had wanted total destruction, none of them would have lived to report what they had seen. News of the battle reached Federation intelligence within hours. Commander Nora Phillips sat in her office on Centrus Prime, reviewing the sensor data that surviving Zephyrian ships had managed to transmit. The readings made no sense according to everything the Federation knew about human capabilities. Phillips was a career intelligence officer with 20 years of experience analyzing alien military forces. She had written the official assessment that classified humanity as a minimal threat species. Now she stared at evidence that made her question everything she thought she knew. The human ship had demonstrated technology that surpassed the Federation's most advanced warships. Shields that absorbed energy without degradation, weapons that violated known physics, fighters that moved faster than anything in galactic arsenals. Either humans had made impossible technological breakthroughs, or they had been hiding their true capabilities for centuries. Phillips began a comprehensive review of human activities throughout Federation space. What she found made her blood run cold. Every human research station had industrial facilities that could manufacture military equipment. Every human mining operation extracted materials perfect for advanced weapons. Every human trade route connected, facilities that, when viewed together, formed a massive military supply network. The humans had not suddenly developed advanced technology. They had been building a secret war machine for 200 years. Phillips compiled her findings into an emergency report for the Federation Council. Her conclusions were simple and terrifying. Humanity possessed the most advanced military force in the galaxy, and they had been carefully hiding it while positioning themselves for conquest. The report reached Council Chairman Veltar just as Admiral Kate Sullivan arrived at Centris Prime with 50 human dreadnoughts. Sullivan's fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation around the Federation capital world. Each ship was larger than anything in the Federation fleet, armed, with weapons that made the Retribution look modestly equipped. They made no aggressive moves, but their message was clear. Humans could have conquered the galaxy at any time. Sullivan requested permission to address the Federation Council. Her tone was polite, but firm. This was not a request that could be refused. The council chambers had never hosted a fleet admiral before. Federation custom required that all military personnel remain outside the building during diplomatic sessions. Sullivan's presence with armed ships in orbit made that custom impossible to maintain. Honored council members, Sullivan began, her voice carrying across the silent chamber. For 200 years, we have played your game. We have smiled, traded, and died quietly when it was convenient for you. That ends today. She activated a holographic display that showed the true extent of human military power. Ship counts that dwarfed the combined Federation fleet. Weapon specifications that rendered current military doctrine obsolete. Industrial capacity that could support total war for decades. You wonder why we hid our strength, Sullivan continued. The answer lies in your own classified archives, records you thought humans would never see. The display changed to show historical documents from humanity's first contact with galactic civilization. The real story, not the sanitized version taught in schools. Earth's first visitors had not come in peace. They had come as conquerors. Humanity's early space colonies had been bombed from orbit. Millions had died in the initial assault. The survivors were given a choice: submit completely to Federation authority or watch Earth burn from space. Humanity had chosen submission, but they had also chosen preparation. We learned that peace is only possible when backed by strength, Sullivan said. We learned that your Federation respects only power. We learned that human lives have no value in your galactic order unless we make them valuable. She paused, letting her words sink in across the silent chamber. Today you discovered what we are really capable of. The Zephyrian fleet that threatened civilian stations has been eliminated. This was not revenge. This was a demonstration of what total war means to humanity. Sullivan's image was broadcast across Federation space. Every species in the galaxy watched as the human admiral revealed the truth that would reshape galactic civilization. The peaceful facade was gone forever. In its place stood something the galaxy had never seen before, a species that combined advanced technology with the will to use it without hesitation. The masquerade was over, and humanity's real war was about to begin. Grand Admiral Kethmore of the Zephyrian Collective refused to believe the reports from Kepler Station. One human ship destroying an entire fleet was impossible. His military advisors insisted the humans must have used some kind of trick or trap. The Federation's most aggressive species would not be intimidated by clever deception. Kethmore assembled the largest fleet in Zephyrian history. 8,200 warships gathered at the edge of human space, ready to crush this upstart species once and for all. The fleet included every major vessel the Collective possessed, from fast attack cruisers to massive dreadnoughts that had conquered dozens of worlds. We will show the galaxy what happens to species who forget their place, Kethmore announced to his fleet commanders. These humans think one victory makes them dangerous. We will teach them the difference between luck and real military power. The Zephyrian armada entered human space at the Titan system, expecting to find frightened colonists in lightly defended planets. Instead, they encountered Admiral Tony Richardson and the first human battle fleet, waiting in perfect formation, around Titan's rings. Richardson commanded 200 human warships, outnumbered 40-1 by the approaching enemy. His flagship, the UNS Thunderbolt, looked small compared to the massive Zephyrian dreadnoughts bearing down on his formation. Any rational military commander would have retreated immediately. Richardson was not interested in being rational. All ships implement combat formation Delta 7, Richardson ordered over the fleet communication channel. Remember, we are not just fighting for victory today. We are showing the galaxy what total war means to humanity. The human ships moved with precision that stunned Zephyrian observers. Each vessel knew exactly where to position itself for maximum tactical advantage. Weapons ranges overlapped perfectly. Defensive fields created interlocking barriers that protected the entire formation. Grand Admiral Kethmore watched the human deployment with growing unease. His own fleet was organized in traditional assault formations that had worked against every enemy the collective had ever faced. But the humans were not arranging themselves like any military force he understood. "Begin the attack," Kethmore ordered. "Destroy them quickly, before they can escape." The Zephyrian fleet opened fire with everything they had. Plasma cannons, particle beams, and fusion missiles filled space with deadly energy. The barrage was intense enough to sterilize a planet, all focused on Richardson's relatively small force. The human ships simply absorbed the attack without taking damage. Richardson's vessels were protected by energy shields that made the Retribution's defenses look weak. But more than that, they fought as a single coordinated unit. When enemy fire concentrated on one ship, its neighbors adjusted their shield harmonics to share the load. When weapons overheated, other vessels provided covering fire automatically. "Target their command ships," Richardson ordered. "Show them how humans conduct war." The human fleet's response was devastating in its precision. Railguns fired solid projectiles that punched through Zephyrian armor like it did not exist. Energy beams cut enemy vessels in half with surgical accuracy. Quantum torpedoes phased through shields and detonated inside enemy hulls. But the real shock came when human fighters launched from hidden bays throughout the asteroid belt. Thousands of small craft emerged from concealed positions, moving faster than anything the Zephyrians had ever seen. Each fighter was piloted by humans who had trained their entire lives for this moment. Lieutenant Derek Johnson led his squadron against a Zephyrian heavy cruiser, weaving through defensive fire that would have destroyed any known fighter. His craft's stealth systems made it nearly invisible to enemy sensors. Its weapons could penetrate armor that resisted capital ship batteries. "This is Phoenix Squadron," Johnson reported over the communication channel. "Target destroyed. Moving to assist Falcon Squadron with the battleship." The Zephyrian fleet found itself fighting an enemy that operated on completely different principles. Human tactics combined precision strikes with overwhelming firepower, stealth attacks with frontal assaults, individual initiative with perfect coordination. Grand Admiral Kethmore watched his invincible armada crumble in minutes. Ships that had conquered star systems exploded like toys. Weapons that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries proved useless against human defenses. His own flagship shuddered under impacts from weapons that seemed to ignore physical laws. "How is this possible?" Kethmore demanded of his tactical officer. "Their ships violate every principle of military engineering we know." The tactical officer, a veteran of 50 battles, could only stare at his displays in confusion. "Admiral, their technology surpasses anything in our databases. These are not the same humans who submitted to Federation authority 2 centuries ago." On the surface of Titan's largest moon, Colonel Susan Wright watched the space battle through her command bunker's sensors. Her ground forces were ready for the next phase of humanity's demonstration. When Zephyrian survivors tried to retreat, they would learn that humans controlled every aspect of this battlefield. Wright commanded 50,000 soldiers in powered armor that made them faster and stronger than any alien infantry. Her troops carried weapons designed specifically to fight non-human enemies. They had trained for decades in tactics that no alien species understood. Ground command to Admiral Richardson, Wright reported. All surface installations are ready. If any enemy ships attempt orbital bombardment, we will respond appropriately. Richardson's reply came through clearly despite the battle raging around his fleet. Understood, Colonel. Maintain defensive positions until the fleet engagement concludes. The space battle ended 90 minutes after it began. The largest fleet in Zephyrian history became scattered debris floating through the Titan system. Less than 200 enemy ships survived, and those only because Richardson allowed them to escape. Grand Admiral Kethmore's flagship limped away from the battlefield with its engines barely functional. His communication equipment was damaged, but he managed to send a message to the collective's homeworlds. The humans have been hiding their true strength for centuries. They possess military technology beyond our understanding. We cannot defeat them in open battle. The message reached the Zephyrian High Command just as human forces began their counterattack. General Victor Hayes coordinated the broader campaign from his headquarters on Mars, systematically targeting every major Zephyrian military installation. Hayes had spent 40 years studying alien military doctrine, learning the weaknesses of every Federation species. His strategy was simple: cripple the collective's ability to wage war permanently, but do it with surgical precision that minimized civilian casualties. Human fleets appeared simultaneously at 30 Zephyrian worlds. Each attack was perfectly timed and executed with overwhelming force. Military shipyards vanished in nuclear fire. Orbital defense platforms were reduced to scrap metal. Ground installations surrendered rather than face human assault troops. The collective's military infrastructure, built over centuries of conquest, was dismantled in 6 months of fighting. Not destroyed randomly, but systematically eliminated according to plans that Hayes had been developing for decades. Colonel Wright's ground forces deployed on 12 Zephyrian colonies, not as conquerors, but as liberators. They freed millions of alien slaves that the collective had captured from weaker species. They destroyed weapons factories and military academies. They left civilian populations unharmed, but made clear that the age of Zephyrian aggression was over. The war ended when the collective's remaining leadership sent an unconditional surrender to Admiral Sullivan at Firebase Alpha. They agreed to dismantle their military forces, release all prisoners, and submit to human oversight of their government. Sullivan's response was broadcast across the galaxy. This is what happens to species who mistake human restraint for weakness. The Zephyrian collective will never again threaten innocent lives. Any other species considering similar actions should study these results carefully. The demonstration was complete. Humanity had revealed just enough of their true capabilities to reshape galactic politics forever. The question now was how the rest of the Federation would respond to this new reality. The answer would determine whether humanity's real war was just beginning. The destruction of the Zephyrian collective sent shockwaves across Federation space. Within weeks, every major species had recalled their fleets to defend their home systems. Trade routes that had operated safely for centuries became dangerous, as nervous captains fired on any unidentified contacts. Captain Derek Johnson patrolled the Altair sector in his new command, the UNS Nemesis. The heavy cruiser no longer bothered with disguises. Its angular hull bristled with weapons that Federation databases could not classify. Johnson's orders were simple: conduct freedom of navigation operations through previously contested systems, and remind everyone that humans now controlled these territories. The Nemesis encountered 3 Valiant patrol ships near the former Zephyrian border. The enemy vessels immediately powered weapons and demanded that Johnson identify himself and state his business in Valian space. "This is Captain Derek Johnson of the United Nations ship Nemesis," he replied calmly. "We are conducting routine patrol operations in Federation space. These systems are not under Valian authority." The Valian commander, Ship Captain Ventok, studied his sensor readings with growing alarm. The human vessel registered power levels that exceeded his entire patrol group combined. Its weapon signatures matched nothing in Valian military databases. "Human vessel, you will withdraw immediately," Ventok demanded. The Valian Empire claims salvage rights to all former Zephyrian territories. Your presence here violates imperial law. Johnson smiled coldly. Ship Captain Ventok, I suggest you review recent galactic events before making territorial claims. The Valian Empire no longer dictates terms to humanity. The 3 Valian ships maintained their aggressive posture but did not fire. Their crews had heard reports about human military capabilities, but seeing a human warship up close made those reports feel suddenly real. The Nemesis could have destroyed all 3 vessels without taking damage. Ventok chose discretion over courage. His patrol withdrew to a safe distance and reported the encounter to Valian High Command. Within hours, the Empire issued new orders. Avoid direct confrontation with human forces until further notice. The pattern repeated across Federation space. Species that had dominated galactic politics for centuries found themselves backing down from human ships. The balance of power had shifted completely, and everyone knew it. Ambassador Christine Lewis worked desperately to repair the damage to human diplomatic relationships. The Altarian Republic, humanity's closest allies, felt betrayed by centuries of deception. Ambassador Kielvar of Altair refused to meet with Lewis for weeks after the Zephyrian War ended. How can we trust anything humans say? Kielvar demanded, when they finally spoke. You lied to us for 200 years. Every treaty, every trade agreement, every promise of friendship was built on deception. Lewis understood his anger but could not offer the apologies he wanted to hear. We never lied about our desire for peace. We simply did not reveal our capability for war. There is a difference. Is there? Kielvar's blue skin flushed darker with emotion. You made us believe we were protecting weak allies when you were actually the strongest military force in the galaxy. You used our friendship to maintain your disguise. The conversation went nowhere. Altarian trust, built over generations, had been shattered in a matter of weeks. Other allied species reacted similarly. The peaceful facade that had served humanity so well now worked against them. Intelligence Officer Brad Taylor discovered the real scope of Federation fears when he intercepted communications between 6 major species. His monitoring station on Europa picked up encrypted transmissions that revealed a secret alliance forming against humanity. The Valian Empire led the coalition, but they had recruited the Corvan Federation, the Hegemony of Suns, the Tertian Alliance, the Free Worlds League, and even elements within the Altarian Republic. Their goal was simple: contain human expansion before humanity could conquer the entire galaxy. Taylor's report reached Admiral Sullivan within hours. The Shadow Council convened an emergency session to discuss this new threat. General Marcus Stone argued for immediate preemptive strikes against the coalition members. They are planning to attack us, Stone said bluntly. Every day we wait gives them more time to coordinate their forces. We should destroy their fleets before they can unite against us. General Patricia Cross disagreed. Attacking first would prove their fears justified. We would become the aggressors they claim we already are. Admiral Tony Richardson reviewed the intelligence data carefully. The coalition includes over 12,000 warships. Even with our technological advantages, that represents a significant threat if they coordinate properly. Sullivan studied the tactical projections her staff had prepared. Human forces could defeat any single Federation species without difficulty, but fighting half the galaxy simultaneously would be costly even for humanity's advanced military. We need to demonstrate that resistance is futile, Sullivan decided. But we also need to show that we are not interested in conquest. The coalition fears human expansion more than human retaliation. The demonstration came when the Valian Empire demanded that humanity submit to military oversight and dismantle their illegal fleet. Emperor Korvash himself issued the ultimatum, broadcast on all Federation frequencies. The human species has violated every principle of galactic law, the Emperor declared. They have built weapons of mass destruction in secret. They have deceived the Federation for centuries. They represent a clear threat to galactic peace and stability. Sullivan's response was swift and decisive. Human fleets blockaded every major Phaelian system without firing a shot. Trade routes were cut. Communication networks were jammed. Supply convoys were turned away at weapon point. The Vaelian economy began collapsing within days. Their industrial worlds depended on imported raw materials that human ships now prevented from reaching them. Their agricultural planets could not export food to population centers. Their military bases ran short of fuel and ammunition. Emperor Corvash demanded that the Federation intervene, but other species were too frightened to act. The human blockade was conducted with surgical precision that avoided civilian casualties while crippling military capabilities. It was a masterclass in economic warfare that no Federation species could counter. Dr. Martin Clark chose that moment to reveal humanity's final secret to the galaxy. The chief scientist's broadcast from the Luna Research Institute shocked even species that thought they understood human deception. For 2 centuries, the Federation has believed itself technologically advanced, Clark announced. Your faster-than-light drives, your energy weapons, your defensive shields, your communication networks. All of them are based on technology that humanity freely shared in the early years after first contact. The implications hit Federation scientists like a physical blow. Their entire technological civilization was built on human innovations that had been disguised as collaborative research. Humanity had not just hidden their military strength. They had deliberately limited galactic technological development to maintain their strategic advantage. We gave you enough to maintain the illusion of progress, Clark continued. But we kept the truly advanced technologies for ourselves. Your most powerful weapons are toys compared to what humanity has developed in secret. The revelation shattered what remained of Federation confidence. Not only were humans militarily superior, but they had been manipulating galactic technology for centuries. Every species suddenly wondered what other secrets humanity had been keeping. The coalition against humanity began fragmenting as members realized the hopelessness of their position. The Corvan Federation withdrew first, followed by the Tertian Alliance. Even Emperor Corvash began sending private messages requesting negotiations. But Admiral Sullivan knew that fear alone would not solve the fundamental problem. The galaxy had learned that humanity was dangerous, but they had not yet learned that humanity could be trusted. That lesson would require one final demonstration of human power. The test would come when the remaining coalition members decided to attack the one target they believed would end the human threat forever: Earth itself. Supreme Commander Zelnok of the Vaelian Empire studied the holographic display, showing 15,000 warships gathered at the edge of Federation space. 8 species had contributed vessels to this final coalition, representing the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Their target was simple: Earth itself. The humans have shown us their strength, Zelnok addressed his fleet commanders through secure communication channels. But strength means nothing if we can cut off the head. Destroy their homeworld and their scattered colonies will surrender rather than face extinction. The coalition fleet included every major warship the participating species could spare. Vaelian dreadnoughts with plasma cannons that could crack planets, Corvan carriers launching thousands of fighters, hegemony battleships armed with fusion torpedoes. Each vessel represented decades of military development and centuries of combat experience. Emperor Corvash himself had approved the desperate plan. If we cannot contain the humans through diplomacy or economics, then we must eliminate them through force. Better to face their retaliation than to live under their dominion. The massive fleet entered Sol system, expecting to find Earth's defenses unprepared for such an overwhelming assault. Intelligence reports suggested that most human military forces were scattered across their colonies, leaving their homeworld vulnerable to surprise attack. They found Admiral Patricia Moore waiting for them with the Solar Defense Force. Moore commanded the defense grid that humanity had spent 2 centuries building around their home system. To the approaching coalition, Earth looked defended by perhaps 500 human warships positioned around the inner planets. The numbers seemed adequate for normal defense, but hopelessly insufficient against 15,000 attackers. CTU, Coalition had no idea they were looking at humanity's final deception. All Coalition vessels, this is Supreme Commander Zelnok, the Vaelian leader, broadcast on all frequencies. You have 30 seconds to surrender unconditionally. Failure to comply will result in the complete destruction of your species. Admiral Moore's response came from her flagship, the UNS Terra, positioned directly between the Coalition fleet and Earth. Supreme Commander, this is Admiral Patricia Moore of the Solar Defense Force. You are trespassing in human space with hostile intent. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Zelnok laughed, the sound harsh through his translator. Admiral, you command 500 ships against our 15,000. Your species has finally overestimated its capabilities. Begin the attack. The Coalition fleet opened fire with everything they possessed. Energy beams that could sterilize continents lanced toward the human defensive line. Missile barrages that could destroy space stations filled the void between fleets. The barrage was intense enough to crack a moon, all focused on Moore's relatively small force. The human ships absorbed the attack without visible damage. Moore's vessels were protected by defensive systems that made previous human technology look primitive. Energy shields that could withstand star-level radiation surrounded each ship. Armor plating forged from materials that existed nowhere else in the galaxy turned devastating weapons into harmless light shows. But the real surprise came when Moore activated the solar defense grid. Hidden installations throughout the asteroid belt suddenly came online. Weapon platforms disguised as mining equipment revealed their true nature. Entire asteroids opened like flowers to expose gun batteries that dwarfed anything on human ships. The moons of Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars lit up with defensive systems that had been built over centuries. Captain Carl Bennett commanded one of dozens of hidden battle stations positioned around Earth's orbital space. His facility had appeared to be a communication relay for the past 50 years. In reality, it housed weapons capable of destroying capital ships with single shots. This is Orbital Defense Platform 7, Bennett reported to Admiral Moore. All systems online and ready for engagement. Similar reports came from hundreds of hidden installations throughout the Sol system. Humanity had turned their entire home system into a fortress that no military force could penetrate. Every piece of space debris, every satellite, every research station served a dual purpose in Earth's defense. Moore smiled as tactical displays showed the true scope of human preparations. Coalition fleet, you wanted to see what total war means to humanity. Allow me to educate you. The Solar Defense Force revealed its full strength for the first time in human history. Thousands of warships that had been hidden behind stealth fields suddenly appeared around the Coalition fleet. Battle stations emerged from asteroid fields where they had waited for decades. Weapon platforms that could destroy planets began targeting enemy vessels with surgical precision. But humanity's ultimate revelation came when Admiral Moore activated the Genesis Protocol. Automated signals transmitted from Earth reached every corner of the galaxy simultaneously. Human ships that had been disguised as cargo haulers, research vessels, and diplomatic transports suddenly dropped their camouflage and revealed their true nature. Thousands of warships appeared at every major Federation world, not to attack, but to deliver a message. The galaxy realized that humanity had positioned fleets capable of conquering every inhabited system without anyone noticing. Trade routes that species had considered safe were actually human military corridors. Research stations that had seemed harmless were forward operating bases for conquest fleets. Supreme Commander Zelnok stared at his tactical displays in growing horror. His 15,000 ships were trapped in a kill zone that humanity had spent centuries preparing. Human vessels surrounded his fleet on all sides, armed with weapons that made his most advanced technology look primitive. This is impossible, Zelnok whispered to his tactical officer. No species could hide this much military power. The logistics alone should have been detectable. On Earth, Ambassador Laura Murphy addressed the galaxy through the emergency broadcast network. Her words were transmitted to every inhabited world simultaneously, carried by human ships that had suddenly appeared everywhere. People of the galaxy, Murphy began, her voice calm despite the battle raging around Earth. For 2 centuries, humanity has maintained peace through careful restraint. We have hidden our strength because we believed that fear should not be the foundation of civilization. The holographic display behind her showed the true extent of human military power. Fleet positions that could conquer any world in the galaxy. Weapon systems that could sterilize entire star systems. industrial capacity that could support total war for generations. Today, certain species have forced us to reveal what we hoped to keep hidden forever. Murphy continued. The coalition, attacking our home world, represents 8 species and 15,000 warships. They believe this force can destroy humanity. She paused, letting her words sink in across the galaxy. They are wrong. What you see attacking Earth is the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. What you see defending Earth is a small fraction of humanity's true capabilities. The battle for Earth ended without the coalition firing another shot. Faced with overwhelming evidence of human superiority, Supreme Commander Zelnok ordered his fleet to surrender rather than face complete annihilation. Admiral Moore accepted the surrender, but made her own conditions clear. The coalition will disarm completely and submit to human oversight. Any species that participated in this attack will forfeit their right to independent military forces. The message was received throughout the galaxy by human fleets that could enforce Moore's demands, anywhere at any time. The demonstration was complete, and the lesson was unmistakable. Humanity's greatest weapon had never been their technology. It was their willingness to use it when pushed beyond the breaking point. Ambassador Murphy concluded her address with words that became humanity's promise to the galaxy. We could have conquered you at any time over the past 2 centuries. We chose peace instead. Remember that choice when you consider how to treat us in the future. Captain Jake Morrison, now commanding the UNS New Dawn, patrolled the borders of human space with a crew that no longer needed to hide their true mission. His ship bore the motto that had become humanity's guarantee: never again. The peaceful facade was gone forever, replaced by a respect born of fear and the understanding that humanity's restraint was a gift, not a weakness. The galaxy had learned the most important lesson in its history: never mistake human mercy for human incapability. The mask had fallen, and beneath it was something the galaxy would never forget.